I want you to take some notes so that you can ask some good questions. Hydroponics is $1 million business with a ready market. So I want to turn you over this time to Mr. Salim Shah of County Victoria, who will tell us all about hydroponics. Over to you, Salim.
Just before Salim starts, I want to remind you all as fast as possible, we'd like you to put on your cameras so that Salim can know he's speaking to persons, as well as Mr. Granger can put a face to the names of the participants in our class. So Salim, over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, everyone. Before I start, well, as Mr. Granger would have said, we are diving into something new for some of us in Trinidad, but hydroponics has been around for quite a while throughout the world. But in Trinidad, it has only recently begun to get a bit of trust, and it is a good thing that the ministry, County Victoria, we've started to promote it, as well as other parts of the ministry. I'm sure you're aware on Facebook, you would see a lot of private companies offering hydroponics classes and systems, right? By the way, you all hearing me clearly, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we are.
Okay, nice. So my presentation was done tailored to give a lot of detail in terms of the technical aspect of hydroponics, right? I even have some short video clips which I did this afternoon of my system at home, and you all are welcome to come to my location and have a look at my system, home here, what my family and I run, right? So I have a running small scale commercial system, right? So you'll get to have a look at that as well, right? So without further ado, we will start the presentation, and as I go along, you can stop in between and ask questions, okay? Right, so we're going into what is hydroponics, right? And as the slide indicates there, I wouldn't read out every single thing because there's a lot to cover in a short space of time, right? The Greek word hydro means water, phonos means labor of work. So they combined water to grow plants, basically. We are accustomed to a traditional form of farming in Trinidad where we just prepare the land, plant cassava, those the basic things in the backyard. But in hydroponics, persons would have, scientists would have developed systems to grow
recording in progress
in water only, right? So basically, we are growing without soil, right? Only water, and it is nutrient-rich water, right? That's on. Right, so we're going to go into the pros and cons of hydroponics, right? There's a lot of pros and cons of hydroponics, and you will see in Trinidad with the current rise of prices, hydroponics is becoming very expensive to start, right? A simple small system for commercial that is will cost you anyway around 20,000 and up for a small commercial system, right? But once you have a farmer's card, you will be able to acquire subsidies to help you offset that cost, right? We could talk a bit about that at the end of the class as well, accessing subsidies once you are registered farmers, right? So on the pros is an efficient use of water and fertilizer. It is less labor intensive, is efficient space use of land space, faster production cycles. There's a bit of reduction in pest and disease problem as it pertains to soil-borne diseases. The crop rotation is not an issue, so you can plant the same thing over and over continuously, right? Almost no weeds to manage, right? So those are some of the pros of hydroponics. The cons would be, as I said, high initial cost, specific to certain crops. Example, what you think might be some of the crops that you would have seen grown on the hydroponics systems in pipes? Anyone?
Let's say some pak choy, water.
Anybody ever see cassava?
No cassava. I've seen tomatoes.
Right. And why we wouldn't have cassava or eddos or sweet potato grown in NFT systems?
Root crops.
They are root crops.
Thank you.
Right, right.
Continue.
Actually, I've seen ginger, Salim.
In
There's
the
a-
in a NFT or a drip to waste.
Excuse me?
In the NFT or the drip to waste.
The young man is here who does it. It's
Right.
he's doing aquaponics actually.
Aquaponics.
Yes.
Aquaponics, right? So aquaponics is another form of hydroponics using fish waste to grow. So the ginger does well in the gravel beds.
Yeah, it was gravel beds.
Right. So we have that. I saw that we have some of that in Victoria at one time. Right. So and also the plants show signs quickly. What they mean by the plants show signs quickly, and I could attest to that. You can kill them very fast. Under the cons, right? Under the cons, they show signs quickly, which means they show signs of deficiencies. They show signs of any type of fertilizer damage that may have occurred while you're mixing. It will show up quickly. So you can lose a lot of plants fast in a NFT system or a hydroponics system, right? Remember, you control everything. You control all the feed that goes into that plant. So once you make a mistake, you will burn down the entire system, basically. And I will have done that several times in my system. But over time, you will learn how to fix that, right? So this is under the cons, right? Poor designs, not suitable for certain areas, right? Some people may live on steep lands and may not be able to build proper racks, right? Sometimes you may have areas that not easily access to electricity because you need electricity to run these systems, right? Some people use solar, but it's still a bit expensive in Trinidad, right? So those are some things to consider. The skills and knowledge to do the hydroponics is a bit out there and limited to some people, but again, YouTube is there to help, and then we in the ministry, we are there as well to assist farmers in getting good information. Hence the reason why I went into this type of farming system, so that when farmers come to me, I could tell you from my knowledge what I do, and any mistakes I make, I try to correct it and pass on that knowledge to the person. So someone doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. Basically, I have been in practice of hydroponics. I'm going in my 4th year. So we have had a bit of hurdles to cross in the past, but we are still operating, right? Diseases can spread rapidly in a hydroponic system. Anybody could give me an idea what they mean by that? Diseases can spread rapidly in a shared system. Anybody? What do you mean by that? Diseases can be spread rapidly in a shared system.
I think if I could use a current example, if someone in a home, in a house, has COVID-19,
Yeah.
everybody's at risk in that house. I hope that's a good example.
Yeah. That's basically covering everything. That's true. That's true. It's amazing how we could use COVID to really tell us of things now.
Yeah. I'm sure Debbie will agree with me. Debbie?
Yeah.
Debbie, won't you agree with that?
You don't say anything. Right. So in this case, the hydroponic nutrient solution, if your solution becomes contaminated with Phytophthora or Pythium fungus or a disease in the water, it will transfer through the entire system once your racks are connected to that particular tank. I try to encourage my farmers when they're building new systems not to do large scale systems where one tank runs the entire operation. Try to go in units, like you do a smaller tank and you do a grow out per tank. So example, if I want to sell 1,000 lettuce for the week, I would build a system to grow out 1,000 lettuce at a time. So therefore I would have 4,000 holes or 4,000 lettuce pots out there at one time, but at different stages with 4 tanks, right? So in case one rack or one unit becomes infected, I still have my other 3 units coming up behind that is not infected, right? So in the beginning, a lot of persons would have gone into large tanks and doing large systems, but now we try to promote smaller tanks, smaller units. So you design your system per grow out, basically. right? So the types of growth media, right? We have rock wool. We have cocoa fiber or cocoa chips. This is something that's very common in Trinidad. It sells for like $50 a block, where you see a lot of the companies advertise cocoa fiber and cocoa chips at around $50. I think they raised the price now to $55 or $60 a block. So every couple of months, you see the price going up on this. This used to be $30 a block, and it just started climbing every month, every couple of months, right? Rockwool is something that is more practiced with the Americans, because they have good access to cheap rockwool in Trinidad. Rockwool is very expensive, so I wouldn't really advocate the use of that for now, unless you have the resources to import large amounts of rockwool, right? The hydroton clay pebbles. Now, the aquaponics person might have use for the hydroton, but I personally I tried to use hydroton, but when you work out the cost to put hydroton to grow out plants is very expensive. So I stuck to 3/8 and 1/2 inch gravel for my gravel beds at one time. But hydroton is out there for the homeowners who want to try. It's a lighter material to use than gravel, but it's very expensive. It's somewhere in the region of $450 for 25 liters. So it's a bit expensive. So I try to use all locally sourced material, cost effective, and try to keep cost of production down. Now, you can design a very nice system with a lot of expensive stuff, but at the end of the day, we have to go and face the market. And market vendors and the local markets is very tough, where you have to compete with the other farmers growing in the ground. Now, if you have a proper market strategy, you could get around that. But a lot of persons going into hydroponics now, they tend to try to build a system first and then do their marketing after. I try to promote do your marketing first, identify your clientele, your niche market, and work from there backwards, and then start looking at your system design and your layout, and then your weekly production. A quick example, I started off growing normal lettuce, what the farmers grow on the ground, which is the Eden variety. And I found that I had to compete with the ground growers, as I would say. And I'm getting the same $4 and $5 wholesale all the time, sometimes $3 wholesale, right? And you try to promote that my product is better. You try to make them aware that I use organic stuff, I use biostimulants that's safe, but they don't want to hear that. Trinidadians don't want to hear that. All they want to hear is that the price suits their pocket. They don't care how you grow it, which is wrong, right? But being that I am trying to practice a safe form of agriculture and use all green label chemicals, I started to suffer in terms of selling my produce, because the vendors don't want to hear that I didn't spray this week, but rain fell for 4 days straight, and I got some fine spots on the lettuce. So they said, nah, that price have to drop to $3 and $2. They didn't want to hear that it didn't have any chemical on it, but the other guy bringing lettuce, clean as a whistle, big and huge. When you smell it, it smells funny. When you look between the leaves, you're seeing white residue all in between. And I showed them that. I said, look at these things. Perfect, that is nice, but is it safe to eat, right? So we do have proper testing facility to prove that lettuce was sprayed, let's say 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And I know farmers spray lettuce up to the day before they harvest, which is very wrong. So as an extension officer, we try to practice and teach farmers not to do that and use chemicals that are green label and safe, especially on leafy crops. So that's just a bit of sidetrack there, but it's something I just had to say before I forget, right? So we continue here with the types of media, which is some important to consider, right? Right, we have perlite. We have perlite is another material they promote. You use this more in Dutch bucket type systems, right? Another thing called vermiculite is another material here that you use in more of the bucket systems, right? We have river rock, which is another thing. It's basically stone that they use, right? And here are some photos of the items. The hydroton or the expanded clay, this is what it will look like. You all see the photo clearly, right?
Yes, Salim, it's clear.
Right.
Yes,
And
sir.
then there's the vermiculite and the perlite. All these ingredients are available, but at a cost, right? So hence the reason why I went into the NFT, so I don't have to use these items, right? The rock wool, this is what rock wool looks like. It's basically a sheet of like a spongy material. It's very good for growing seedlings, but very expensive at the end of the day. So you need to recognize to yourself, if you intend to start a hydroponic business, is to keep your cost of production down. I try to keep my cost of production under $2 per head, right? So anytime my lettuce sell $2 and up, I'm in a profit, right? Here we have cocoa peat block. This is what you would see on the agro shops. Is basically compressed the flesh from the coconut. I don't know if you ever saw a dry coconut and you shell the dry coconut, not the fibers. Between the fibers, there's a bit of a dust between the fibers. That is the peat. So imagine how much coconut they had to shell to get a block of peat, right? It's not the fiber. The fiber is something different. Between the fiber, there's a fine dust, and that is the dust that they compress to make that block, right? Now we're going to go into types of hydroponic systems, right? Now there are a lot of different types of hydroponic systems, right? Because remember what I said earlier on, hydroponics is soilless growing. So we can grow plants in water, we can grow it in stone, we can grow it in hydroton, cocoa peat, because these are not soil. These are all inert or neutral media in which the roots can hold on to, right? So they have different types of media I just showed is what the plant roots would hold on to while you feed it all the nutrients, right? So it's still considered soilless. If you use the cocoa peat, the hydroton, the rock wool, even sharp sand is considered a form of hydroponics. In the ministry a couple of years ago at the Point Fortin office, we would have promoted sharp sand hydroponics, and it's still a very stable system to date. Right, Mr. Baringer Ram would have been the person to pioneer that system, who are retired from the ministry, and that system has worked well, and I know a farmer is using that system commercially today to produce sweet pepper for price mat at the moment in Barrackpore. And that's just growing in pure sharp sand alone, right? So we're going to go here into just a list of the different types of systems, right? Deep water culture, which is called the WC system, which is basically growing in 12 inches of water in these long rafts with Styrotex floating on the top. I'll have some photos of that coming up.
Styrotex
right?
is illegal.
Styrotex is illegal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, from this year it has
Yeah.
become illegal.
There's a ban on that.
Okay.
Deep
A
water
banned item.
Yes, it's now
Yes, it
banned.
is.
It went through the transition and should soon be banned.
Okay, so foam would be similar.
No,
Foam.
Styrotex, because of the material itself, it does not decay.
Okay,
So it's going to be discontinued. So people using styrofoam, food containers, and the
Polystyrene.
styro cups,
Yeah,
polystyrene.
and other similar
polystyrene.
products.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Oh, okay, well then
Polystyrene.
that's good. Well then that's good. Okay, right. Well,
You're
because
supposed to be upon that.
that's something good for the environment. Right. So we have the NFT system, or the nutrient film technique. That's what I mean by NFT, nutrient film technique, which is where a film of water passes through a pipe or a container, and the root mass just is submerged. Just the tips of the root touches the water. It's not completely submerged. It's just a thin film of water. Hence the reason why the name is called nutrient film technique, right? It's a thin film of water. Then we have aeroponics, which is another advanced system where you have misters and timers and pumps spraying nutrient-rich water onto the root system. This is more practice like in China and the more high-tech greenhouses and fully controlled environment. I don't think I know if anyone in Trinidad so far doing aeroponics on a large scale. Computers.
Let me just take 10 seconds to make an announcement. There are 2 people who are unnamed on the list. We are taking it seriously that you must name yourselves. We've been experiencing hackers on the system, and therefore, if you do not change to your correct name, we'll have no alternative but to ask you to leave. So Galaxy J4 and the other person, could you name yourselves, please? Just click on participants, click on your name, and we'll ask to rename, and you just put in the correct name. Thanks a lot.
Okay, right.
Go ahead, Salim.
Okay, right. And then now we have wicking beds. Wicking beds is basically a trough, and you would have a reservoir under that trough where you would fill water, and the media will gradually pull up by capillary action the fertilizer solution, right? Someone has their mic on there. Yeah, you can mute your mics unless you have a question, right? So you won't hear the feedback, right? Then we have the ebb and flow system, which is practiced a lot in the aquaponics type systems where there's a flood and drain beds, right? This is something common in that type of system. Then we have the Dutch bucket systems, which is practiced in more greenhouses, and drip system where we have a lot of those advertising on Facebook where you have people growing lettuce and leafy crops in 4-inch PVC pipes where they cut off the top of the PVC pipe and they fill the cocoa peat in it. That would be considered drip to waste. What they mean by drip to waste means that you actually water fertilizer into the bed and it drips out into the ground. So it dripped into the bed to waste away, basically, which if you add up the dollars and cents is a lot of water being lost and fertilizer being thrown away. But there are some benefits to that system. It's less management, and people tend to veer towards that drip to waste first before they venture into NFT, right? So but I would have ventured into NFT first, and I remained there at the NFT level, and I didn't go into drip to waste because certain crops love drip to waste and certain crops can do well in NFT. So every system mentioned here has its particular crop that it prefers. So over time you will realize, and I can mention that when you're ready to start your system, you could contact me and we could probably discuss what you want to do with the scale, and I can advise you from there. We have the Kratky Hydroponics. Funny name, Kratky. Mr. Kratky would have designed a simple hydroponic system, soilless, because it's hydroponics. It's just a trough filled with nutrient-rich water. And well, in this case, Kratky didn't know Styrotex banners yet, right? So, but he used a styrofoam board and just rest the lettuce on the board and just put it there in the trough, and just about 6 lettuce, and they grew well without any aeration, without any pump, without anything. Just the solution in there and the roots submerged in it, and it grew, right? And he did it a number of times and proved his method worked on a small scale. Commercially, Kratky wouldn't really do well, but for home use, it will surely work, right? And well, drip to waste system, as I mentioned here, is basically adding the fertilizer to the cocoa peat, the rock wool, the hydrogen, and it just drips out of the bucket into the ground. Drip to waste system, right? Drip to waste systems, you can grow tomatoes, sweet pepper, pimentos, jalapenos, chilies in that. You look to go the more high value crops. I wouldn't really, I personally wouldn't go into lettuce in drip to waste because I want to maximize the full potential of my solution. I would prefer to grow tomato, a more fruiting crop in that type system. Right, and just some photos here to show what deep water culture is. Right, just a bit of just to elaborate a bit more on what it is. A little definition of what it is. It requires an air stone. Is about 12 inches of water. There's a styrofoam board, and the plants there with their roots hanging in the water, and there's a pump cycling that water around in there, and the air stone. That's basically what deep water culture is, and there's a definition for it there. Without oxygen, the plants will drown. So there must be some form of aeration on the large systems, right? Then the nutrient film technique, the definition is there. Mr. Granger, would the participants get a copy of the presentation to review on their own time?
Yes, they
That
would,
is the
Salim.
plan. That's the
Okay,
plan.
nice.
We would
Lovely.
we would
Yeah, you
do
can
a
give
group.
them a copy of it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. So so then here we have the NFT explained a bit more. The definition for it is more gravity fed, because you have a pump at a low point, a timer attached to the pump, air stone, and then it will go to the top of the rack, and then the water will just run back down towards the reservoir tank. So basically it's a loop, a cycling system going around. Right, you see the pump here, the timer attached, and then the water just flows to the top of the rack, runs down and back into the reservoir. Right. So this is what I do. This system here, the NFT systems, and then you have these little net cups here. You put your plants in that, and they grow from there. Right. Then we have here the aeroponics. Let me just minimize this a bit. Right, we have the aeroponics. The aeroponics here now is basically, again, a system, pump, a mister, a timer, and it just missed the root. Very expensive to set up, by the way, because these mister nozzles are very expensive and they can clog easily. So you need to have proper filtration, proper nutrient that is properly well diluted or dissolved, so it wouldn't clog these nozzles. It's a very expensive system. So I don't think much people in Trinidad doing this, but I just mentioned it still as a form of hydroponics that's practiced throughout the world.
I didn't want to miss this opportunity, Salim. So if I may just say it as we are at this point.
Yeah.
I was head of a company in Port of Spain that does what is called 3D printing.
Okay.
3D printing is when you take a solid object and make it again using
Right.
a printing technology,
Okay,
using plastics of various
Plastic.
grades.
Oh, polyethylene.
These attachments, we actually did a set for the minister before I left that company, where we were growing things like shadow benny and so on.
Right.
So remind me at some time in the future, I will connect you to that company. It's
Okay,
called
okay.
Fojo 3D printing, and we'll
Okay.
see how, because it could make it at a very affordable cost compared to the originals.
Okay.
And therefore it may become sensible to do some of that. Just bear that in mind, everyone, and we'll take it up at a later stage. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay. So, and then we have here the wicking beds, which we mentioned earlier on. The definition for it basically is the soil and gravel, and then you have a simple PVC pipe goes into the container which you would use, and you would fill your solution here, and the bed will actually absorb the water, and you can grow a variety of crops in a wicking bed. It's an old method practice. It's simple to do for home. So you can see you can grow some rooting crops, some fruiting, some leafy crops, and that will all be determined on the depth of which you set up your soil or your medium to be. So it's a simple system. I think this system would have been commercialized by this company called Rotoplastics. Rotoplastics has a trough. The ministry would have gotten some for 4H at one time. It's a long rectangular trough, and there's a hole on the corner of the trough with a little lid, and you can fill water in that corner there, and it goes down to the bottom of the trough with some tiny slots. So the water actually be pulled up through the trough once you have your plants and your media mixed in there. So those were I think they call them the self-watering planters. So somewhere around 450 for 4 feet, a 4 feet wide trough, 4 feet in length by about 1 foot across. Yeah. So Rotoplastics, I think they still have it. Self-watering troughs, they call them. Right.
Then we have the ebb and flow system here, which is used like in the aquaponics, where you have a siphon action taking place where the tray will be filled with water and then the water will drain automatically. So this floods and drains constantly, whole day, whole night. In some systems, you have your pump filling up your trays, and your plants are submerged in the liquid there in the fertilizer solution. Right? The system functions by flood and drain, right? We're going into the Dutch bucket system would be this type of system where you're seeing here growing in buckets, drippers, and the water actually recirculates back to a main sump, right? And then the water is filtered and then goes back to the buckets. So it continues in a loop, right? This is the buckets you will grow tomatoes, sweet pepper, jalapenos, but people prefer to do tomato in this, hoping to catch the high prices of tomatoes to recover their investment cost. Now, this is very expensive setup as well. I think a bucket with a cover with the next cup has to fit is somewhere around $30 or $40 these suppliers want to charge, but with a bit of innovation and skill, you could work your way around that and cut those things for yourself. You can buy used buckets and modify them, but there are a lot of ready-made products out there, very expensive, but again, with a bit of time, you could and some skill, you could work your way around that. But the suppliers we have in Trinidad, they like to make it easy for a homeowner to just go in and buy a small, let's say a 12-pot system, and everything's already set up. You pay for that convenience, basically. Right? And there's a lot of different mediums that they use inside of these buckets. This is the Kratky system here, which is just a styrofoam board. The roots submerged in water and the plants grow. That's it, on a small scale. Because you notice it's just a small 4x4 table with some solution in it, and that's it. And it grows. But this is in a greenhouse, right? So just going through the basic systems of what you might come across on the internet and what could be used here in Trinidad. Basically, this is a photo from someone in Trinidad here. I think the company I took this from would be Greenage Farms on Facebook. I actually want to go and check them out to purchase one of these standing pot systems, right? But notice they have lettuce in it and they have chive, and it's looking like celery here, small celery. I wouldn't do lettuce in this. I will do chive and probably fine thyme and parsley in this layout, not lettuce, because you wouldn't get a marketable lettuce here. You would get lettuce growing very long and stringy in these types of systems. The ones on top would grow well, but down here you might have some problems. And the cost of a 400 planting hole system, which is 10 of these stacks, is somewhere around 7,500 or 8,000, somewhere around there for this system in Trinidad to date, right? So there's a lot of pros and cons to this, but I prefer to use this system to grow fine thyme, parsley, or even some chive, right? And fine thyme is very expensive, parsley is very expensive. The system is expensive, so that's why I will choose those crops to grow here to recover the cost, not lettuce, because lettuce will sell for $3 and $4. It'll take you a very long time to recover the cost of this, growing lettuce alone, right? Just they make mention of some of the crops that they recommend. Yes, you can grow lettuce, but commercially it wouldn't be viable from my experience. Pak choy, neither. The bok choy you may get away. This is a high price crop because Chinese love to buy this for their soups. Kale you may get away, but not on the whole stack. The kale grows smaller on the lower section and bigger on the top. I went to a commercial grower in South Trinidad, and he had issues where he had to cut the stack in half because the kale didn't do well. So again, from being on the field and getting experience from these persons who have purchased and have issues and trying to help them fix it, that's why I tell you that from now, so you wouldn't make the same mistakes that they would have made. One person, he does basil, arugula, the leafy spinach,
right? Now he has a niche market where he supplies specialty products. So he actually sells one-on-one on Facebook, right? So those are the types of things that you might have to do if you put out an investment on these types of systems where you try to get your one-on-one sale and you sell the more high-end products like the arugula, the basil, the kale, the bok choy, and the fine thyme. These are the more high-priced crops in this for this system. Any questions so far? No questions? Right? The nutrients required to grow hydroponics. Right? In hydroponics, right? There's a few nutrients that we recommend, and there are a lot of blends out there that you'll have to learn. Basically, there's a blend for every crop, right?
Excuse, Salim. Excuse, sorry, I was looking for, I know someone placed a question in the chat, but I was looking for it as you asked. The person asked, what system would you recommend for off-grid?
Off-grid, okay, nice. So our off-grid system would be a drip-to-waste system. The drip-to-waste would mean that the pump wouldn't have to come on as frequent as an NFT. In NFT, it is energy-based. That you must have current running. My pumps run for like 12 to 14 hours a day, and they cut off, and then they come back on 4 in the morning, right? So that's my system cannot really be done. So well, I won't say cannot. It wouldn't be economical to do it solar for me because I'll have to spend over almost $60,000 just to power it with solar, right? Whereas a drip to waste with just 2 truck batteries, I think a 2 to 400 watt panels and a proper charging system, you'll be able to run a nice size drip to waste system because the pump only comes on between 4 to 6 times for the day. So it's a bit of calculation we're doing here. You have to work your maths back now on looking at your power consumption of your pump, the size of your pump, and the size of your system. And there are companies doing in Trinidad. Scott does sizing of solar systems for drip to waste farmers. I'm not sure the price at the moment, but I know they have a nice package. There's also a company called CASA, Conscious Agricultural Services. They also do a full system where they do the drip to waste and they build the shade house and they do the solar power for you as well. So those are some companies that you can check out on Facebook, right? That answers your question.
Salim, if I may, I just want to add some more information. The moment a person asks about being off-grid, it means they're looking at maybe some property that they own on which they would like to do a system. I am thinking they're not just living in a place where there's no electricity. But if they're living somewhere where there's no electricity, obviously they have some form of refrigeration, so they have some kind of hands-on experience to that. But if it is a total piece of land somewhere where there's no electricity and you want to put up this as a business, I think it would become a very good project to approach the Ministry of Agriculture for grant funding, and particularly if you're in the age group that qualifies you as a youth between 18 and 35. The government is assisting in these kinds of ventures, looking for entrepreneurs and looking for the youth who might see this as a viable business. I just want to throw in this, so if we have youths on the session at this time, this is something for you. Pay attention, ask more questions at the end, and get back to the person who may have invited you. Thanks a lot.
Right. So a bit more on that topic, on that point there. The program that they would have introduced recently, where they want to encourage the youths to acquire the grant. From my experience with the grant program, once you have they're looking at persons who may already be practicing farming. They may have some experience, not much. They will also have to have a farmer's card, right? So you must have a farmer's card. One, you must have your land and some form of practice in agriculture going on. It doesn't have to be any large scale system, but once you see that you're actually involved in something and you want to move from one step to a step higher. So once they see that, that helps that helps them to make a better decision to allow you to acquire that 100,000 grant that they are speaking about. And when you're doing, if you intend to acquire this grant, I would advise that you always push your proposal above that 100,000, because your 100,000 is the max. But you can't just ask for $100,000. You have to ask for more and suggest that you would put in the rest to make it up, basically. I have some of my farmers would have applied and they would have gotten through with hydroponics, where one guy would have had a small system and he would have applied for the grant, and he was able to expand the system to a bigger scale and buy better meters, buy a bigger generator, stuff like that, right? So yeah, those are some of the things that you could consider when you're looking to apply for the proposal. And if you're having problems, you go to your county office and you probably talk to the officer for your area, and they're supposed to be able to advise you on working up your way to get that grant, right?
Another question, someone just sent me a message. What is the best system for indoor use? That is personal use and not commercial.
Right. So indoor use, there are a lot of small systems being sold out there where they have small growing systems for indoors with lights. You must have lighting, must have aeration, and you must have clean water. So you have some form of containment for your water system. Your planting pots must be of a certain size, and then your lighting must be correct to that specific plant that you want to grow, whether it be fruiting plants or leafy crops. The light spectrum would have to be adjusted to the type of plant. And there are a lot of small systems being sold. One company in right here in Princeton sells small indoor systems, which is Plant Doctors. He sells small indoor systems, right?
You opened, someone asking a question about the grant. Last one. Is it available for apiaries as well, or just for crops?
No, any form of agriculture. Once you have a proper, once your proposal is let's say your proposal mustn't leave them to question what you're asking for. Once you do a proposal for them and you lay it out properly, they must be willing to just approve it with confidence, you know, because but if they don't understand, they will call you for a small interview just to explain yourself what you want to do. But if you're into April, that's a nice project, and I'm sure they will fund any form of expansion going into bees in terms of developing nukes, developing proper honey extraction methods, and probably building a proper honey house, you know, and helping to market your product. So that's a very good idea to apply for the grant to improve your existing apiary. If you have an existing apiary and you want to improve, they will look at that, because they're really trying to bring farmers. Well, the original grant was that they're trying to bring farmers from one level of production a step up. So that was the first trust in the grant, and then recently they come and they start to talk about financing the youth, which is another stage of it, you know. So that's where they at the moment. I think that would have been under the budget allocation, where you would have heard agriculture got 300 million or something like that extra. So that 300 million that I think they are speaking about would be pertaining to grants and subsidies, right? So under the notes here, nutrients required for hydroponic growing. Well, the note says self-explanatory is many forms of nutrients that is required for hydroponics, because you have to provide every single element of growth for that plant. With hydroponics, the grower has complete control over the implementation of the fertilizer program with regards to concentration. So in hydroponics, you basically have to be monitoring your fertilizers on a daily basis. I check my system 3 and 4 times a day. I call and tell them, well, go and check the tank. Eventually, I will try to invest in some type of monitoring device that I could check on my phone. It is available, but is somewhere in the realm of $1,000 US at the moment. But it is there. But in the meantime, you have people around, you can have it checked regular, right? The the composition of the nutrient solution is important, as I mentioned. So you have to have a proper balance nutrient solution for your NFT systems, right? And a bit of details here. I won't read through everything. I just want to read off this slide because you will get the slides after, right? But it covers a bit here on the types of nutrients available in the fertilizers and also the different formulations. If you look to the bottom of the slide page here, you've seen 7, 11, 27, 10, 13, 32, and we'll skip the 6, 6, 24, and the 4, 18, 37. These are the 3 main formulations that is used in hydroponics in Trinidad, whether it be drip to waste or NFT. I use the 7, 11, 27, and there's also persons using the 10, 13, 32, right? The 4, 18, 37 is the formulation that you can grow fruiting plants with. Now let's go back here to the 7, 11, 27. Anybody have an idea what 7, 11, 27 represents from school days in science class? What 7, 11, 27 represents?
NPK ratios.
Nice. So that's the basic thing you have to know, right? So if you're going into agriculture, you have to remember what NPK is. And 7, 11, 27 is a formulation that was developed for lettuce, right? And then if you look at the difference from 7, 11, 27 to 4, 18, 37, 4, 18, 37 has a lower nitrogen, which is 4, and a higher potassium, which is 37. Tomato cannot tolerate high levels of nitrogen once it starts fruiting. So hence the reason why they developed a 4, 18, 37 formula for tomato. So tomato, sweet pepper, bayan, chilies, pimentos, all the fruiting plants, strawberries, they would use this 4, 18, 37 formulation, right? Whereas the leafy crops would do better on the 7, 11, 27 and the 10, 13, 32. Pak choy does really well on the 10, 13, 32. Now, something that we have to consider is what? Price. At the end of the day, price is important, as I mentioned earlier, because why grow something? Let's say you're spending $10, or okay, example, you're spending $5 to grow $5 head of lettuce. It doesn't make sense, right? You have to look at cost of production. Yes, it is good to build a nice system. You try to cover all the parameters that plant will need, but at the end of the day, it's a business that you want to run. So you have to look at cutbacks and look at using the exact amount of fertilizer without wastage, using the correct ingredients and the correct rates to reduce your cost of production and the proper practice, right? A lot of people use extra. Farmers love to use extra, but extra doesn't always work out, right? In hydroponics is a precise type of farming where you have to be on the ball. If you miss, you would lose. I lose a lot of plants, but we never stop. We always going, and one of the reasons why I chose to go into hydroponics is because the ground farming in Princestown is terrible. The soil is highly acidic. So that was one of the reasons why I came out from the ground, because I used to plant in the ground and I always had problems with grass. I spent half of my time fighting grass. Farmers spend 50 to 60% of their time fighting weeds, right? So basically the farming wasn't enjoyable. It was labor intensive, tiring and frustrating, especially when you go to the market and you get next to nothing for your produce. But with the hydroponics, we cut that frustration down a lot. For me personally, it's a lot, and my entire family is involved in my operation, right? And likewise, you can do the same, right? So you have to work on cost of production, market, and proper system design. And this is where we in the ministry come in, where we can help you with the system design. We can advise you on, I can personally advise you on the mistakes that I would have made and give you the proper guidance to move forward, right? So we could do that. We'll continue a bit here on the nutrients required for the hydroponic growing. So we have mentioned that nutrients was designed for hydroponics systems. So therefore you would use hydroponic fertilizer in hydroponic systems, right? You wouldn't go to buy field fertilizer to use in your hydroponic system because it just wouldn't dissolve. It wasn't designed for that, right? The composition of the element of the nutrients designed for soil is very different. So I just said that, right? So we have to buy hydroponic grade fertilizer, which means it will be more soluble. The nutrients would be of a better quality available for the plant in liquid form. Hence the reason why we pay a bit more for it. I pay $265 for a bag of 7-Eleven 27, and that is 33 pounds. I buy it at iShops in Bamboo, a new agro shop open quite in Bamboo. And if I buy 2 bags, I pay $240 for a bag. So you have to shop around and try to get the better prices, right? Chemicals prices vary from north to south Trinidad a lot, right? So you have to be aware of that as well.
Salim, if you could allow me again, I just want to
Sure.
interject. I'm taking way too many notes, and I don't want to, at the end, when our attendees have questions, I take away from their time.
Yeah.
Know that the organization, the South Caribbean Conference, is interested in taking us to the point where we will develop ourselves from the zones as cooperatives. So if you could imagine 100 of you in your zone doing some hydroponics, realistically, you could look at developing a system where you could purchase at lower prices the ingredients required for conducting your hydroponics. So I want you to think about that. You're not in this by yourself, but we could only have the group activity if the group continues to come to these sessions to learn a little more and to get back to the Ministry of Agriculture for implementing your plans. First, tweaking and designing your plans, and then implementing your plans. So there's a huge opportunity available to us. And I think we're in the right hands with Salim and with Gabriel, as well as James Williams, to get this thing going. There's another guy that is on the set right now, Gabriel. I didn't get a chance to introduce him, but it would be very important for us to do some visits, some field visits, and see for ourselves what's happening. Thanks for the little advertisement there, Salim.
Right, no problem. Right. So and in my notes in these slides, there's some key information, technical data there that is very crucial to hydroponics. The last point there, the 4th point, you see they make mention of temperature. In Trinidad, that's a serious problem we have in Trinidad, and it varies throughout the year, temperature. Our solution in Trinidad reaches 31 to 32 degrees Celsius, which is terrible for hydroponics, right? People try to combat it by purchasing coolers and chillers for their systems. I have a farmer, he has like 5 or 6 chillers. He pays somewhere around 4,000 for one. And these chillers cool the water, especially during the rainy season. I mean, sorry, the dry season, when the weather is very hot, when our daytime temperatures are 34 or 33, the water reaches close to that. Once the solution reaches that, the plants stop pulling nutrients and they actually wilt in the water and lie down on the pipes, right? So cooling is important. How we combat that? We have our tanks in the ground. We have concrete tanks. Concrete tends to hold coolness from the soil. So if the surrounding soil is moist, it will transfer that coolness to the concrete tanks, right? And the concrete tanks will keep the water cool throughout most of the day. So people who would have built concrete tanks tend to not really have much of an issue with temperature versus the guys like myself who have plastic tanks. We have temperature issues, and we try to combat that by burying our pipes and changing out the water regular, right? And also heavy aeration. So something to consider is temperature. You also have to keep an eye on your temperature. The ideal temperature for hydroponic plants, according to the textbook and from what I would have seen, is 28 degrees Celsius. If you can maintain a 28 degrees Celsius water, then you will have proper growth of your plants, you'll have proper nutrient absorption, and your system will work well for you. You'll also have less disease incidence. Bacteria loves that warm water. Root rot loves warm water, right? And once you have warm water, you will encounter root rot issues, and also warm water deprives the plants of oxygen. Cool water absorbs oxygen. Warm water loses oxygen. So from that, you would realize that temperature is key, important, right? Nutrients required in hydroponic growing elements. Well, this is just primary school information again, we'll just run through it quickly. Well, nitrogen for leafy growth, phosphorus for root development, and then we have potassium for the increasing chlorophyll and foliage, right? In your fruiting plants, the potassium is important. Calcium, very important as well for your shelf life of your plant, right? I also spray on calcium as well on my system, right? So that improves shelf life of your product, right? Nutrients required for growing, again, would be magnesium, which is an Epsom salt, right? So from your notes, you can also read back your notes later to just cover some of these points, right? And then a small listing here of some of the elements, the other elements that you would find in the fertilizer. pH, right? Now this is some more technical data. pH is very important in hydroponics, right? Just a bit about pH. How many of you all know about pH in terms of what you have learned in school, the pH scale? You'll remember anything about that, the pH scale?
Yeah. From 1 to 14.
Right. So we have an alkali side and we have an acid side, right? And the neutral would be 7. Wasa water supposed to be what?
Supposed to be 7.
Supposed to be 7, right? You see that this blue water cell alkali water. You see you ever look at the pH on the alkali water? I think is 8 point something. Right? You say it's good for you. Yeah. And then the blue water itself is supposed to be 7. I like to buy them and test them, like just before I drink them. I'll test them because I have a pH tester. Every hydroponic farmer must have a pH tester, or 2 or 3, because they tend to spoil quickly. So I have 2 or 3 put away, and I use them according. And then you must take care of your pH probes. pH is a key parameter that must be monitored on a daily basis. I check my pH 2 times for the day, morning and afternoon. Right? So if I pass home lunchtime, I would check it lunchtime too. But morning and afternoon, right? I check it to make sure that the pH is correct. The reason being is that without a proper pH, you will have no absorption of nutrients. The pH is the key that will open the lock in the plant to allow it to pull nutrients, right? So you can have all the nutrients in the tank, all the nice elements they're floating around, but if the pH is off, the plant will never get it into the root system. It will never pull it. So that's why you have to balance your pH with your concentration, your ppm with your pH, right? So you'll hear fellas talking about like I gotta ask you, hey boy, what pH you're running on your system? Boy, I'm honestly, boy, you're running a 5.2, a 6.1, a 6.2. You know, last week Wasa water come 7.5, and when you mix your fertilizer, it's still staying 7, right? So then you have to drop the pH of the water to a bit more on the acid side, because the roots tend to pull the nutrients on a slightly acidic type solution, right? So you have to balance your pH now by adding phosphoric acid, a couple drops to your tank, and let it drop down now to reach a 6.2, right? So we try to maintain a 6.2. Sometimes some people go as low as 5.8, but a 6.2 is a nice pH to run, right? So that's something you have to do some reading on, and you also have to experience it for yourself on testing and doing numerous tests and adjustment, right? When you fill a tank of water with Wasa water, the entire tank would supposed to read, let's say 7. When you mix your couple of pounds of fertilizer in a bucket, you dissolve it and you throw it into your tank. You test the water, you test your pH, you will realize the pH is, let's say 6.9 or 6.8, right? Then now to adjust that, you would take a couple of drops of phosphoric acid, small amounts. Everything will be done on small increments until it comes up. Right now, over time, you would realize, like in my case, I would know I just have to mix 10 mLs of acid to throw in my 300-gallon tank, and I'll have a change in pH, it all depends on the size of tank that you have, right? I also use hydrogen peroxide in my tanks as well. We'll discuss that later on, right? But just for now, pH is what we're focusing on. So you have to understand the key role pH plays in the growing of these plants. Once it is off, your plants will not grow properly. They would be stunted. They would grow, the root mass wouldn't be nice and white and looking like they absorbing, pulling their nutrients, right? So you have to be aware that your pH have to be on point all the time, right? Rules that we have are higher nutrient requirements during the cooler months and lower requirements during the hotter times, right? So what that means basically is that if you have hot sun, you try to avoid having a high nutrient level. If the sun is cool, like if I see we have an overcast days, I could raise my concentration of my fertilizer for the plants to pull a bit more. But if the sun is hot, I would drop it back down. So clearly you would see there's a lot of hands-on management. There's a lot of management in a hydroponic system. So if you're doing full time, it would be better for you. Part-time is a bit risky. Like what I'm doing is part-time is a bit risky with the part-time, where I could lose if I'm not wrong. But my family, they basically help cover that. Right? And this is just a quick table here showing a pH scale and a ppm scale. Anybody have an idea what is ppm?
Parts per million.
Right, parts per million, right? Parts per million is basically a measure of concentration. You have parts per million meters or TDS meters out there that can tell you your parts per million by a figure displayed on the screen of what your solution is. So you can mix up your solution 1 or 2 grams per gallon, test it, and it will tell you how much parts per million. And from that, now you can do a bigger measurement to show what how much to mix for a 300-gallon tank or a 500-gallon tank, as the case may be. This table here, well, you will have the a copy of this, so you can have an idea of what the pHs are for the various crops. You can see lettuce. Look at the lettuce one, and you would see is 5.5 to 6.5, anywhere between that range, and a ppm concentration of 560 to 840. I run more on the 840, the 850 side of things, right? I found that the lettuce does better here. Right, the pH levels for hydroponic plants, basically a pH scale that we have mentioned, and the pH scale is a measure of acid or base or basic in nutrient levels. We already mentioned that, right? This is just some simple information here for you, right? To tell you what the pH is. It explains pH, which we just did, right? pH is important for the nutrient solution here and important for root development. Right. So it says that the plant will be starving for food if the pH is not balanced, basically, right? And then we have some photos here of some pH testing equipment, right? So there are quite a few slides on pH because it's very important. This can make or break your system, pH, right? Even in aquaponics, pH is important. In aquaponics is one of the first systems I would have ventured into and did that for quite a while as well. Still, I build systems for people on aquaponic systems, and I have quite a bit of experience with that. And pH was important to balance between the plants and the fish in the aquaponics. Aquaponics is a very, very nice system for home use, right? You can have a lot of nice things growing in an aquaponic system for home. Right? To go commercial aquaponics is a bit expensive. I would say it's more expensive than hydroponic, right? So we have here some pH testing equipment, very expensive ones and cheaper ones. A pH meter might run you into around 325, 375 for a HANA pH meter, right? Online is like 50 US for a HANA, around there, right? I buy the HANA brand products because they have good reviews, and I've used them since I've started, and I never had any issues with them, and you can recalibrate them on a regular basis with the HANA pH solution, right? We have pH adjustment, which we talk about. We use an acid adjust pH or a base to adjust the pH, so we can bring up the pH to bring it to what if your solution drops and becomes too acidic, like sometimes you have a heavy rainfall and your rain at different times of the year is more acidic than sometimes. So like last week when we had some rain, it was quite a bit acidic and my system dropped to 4.8 and I had to bring it back up to the 5.8 mark. So I had to use some potassium hydroxide, right? And that is a alkali, so a couple of grams of potassium hydroxide in the tank will bring it back up, right? Now my system is not covered. Ideally, I'll have to cover my system with a plastic shed over it eventually, but again, it's a bit of a cost, right? So between potassium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide would be solutions you'll use to bring the pH back up. And if it's too if it's too high, you can take it down with the acid. Right? Example: nitric acid, sulfuric acid, or phosphoric acid. We have access to phosphoric acid from the plant shops and potassium hydroxide from the plant shop. Those are the two common ones you would find. Right? TDS and ppm levels for the hydroponic plants. Right? Well, TDS is total dissolved solids. Your meters would be measuring TDS or ppm. Basically, this is the measure in which we use on a daily basis to measure our concentration. So you can see we make mention of two things, pH and TDS. So those are the two parameters I check on a daily basis, and you would have to once you have your system running. Even in a drip to waste, you have to check your pH and your TDS, because in a drip to waste system, you will have a tank with solution in it. So you'll have to check that tank to make sure that it doesn't get hot and the pH is correct in that and the TDS is correct in that, right? And then we have TDS meters. Again, is another meter that you'll have to buy a HANA. So there's another 325 or 400 around there for one of these meters, right? 1 ppm, maybe 1 milligram of iron in 1 million milligrams of water. 1 part per million. That's what it means, right? 1 ppm means 1 milligram in 1 million milligrams of water, right? But you don't have to really work out the maths. The meters does it for you. So all you have to understand is your table, which you saw earlier on, 850. Once you dip your meter in the water and it says 850, you know you're on the spot. Once you dip your pH meter in the water and you see it's saying 6.2, 6.5, or even 5.8, you're safe. And whether it up or down, you drop your couple drops of acid or base according to adjust. Simple. Once you do it a couple times, it's not hard. It's just the time to put out to do it on a daily basis. Right? Now we talk about a bit here on pumps. We use submersible pumps. Some people use external pumps. A lot of the smaller systems we use submersible pumps. Anybody know how pumps are rated? Well, you see it there, GPH, right? Gallons per hour, right? Pumps are rated in gallons per hour. I use a lot of the EcoPlus or the Reson pumps. These are magnetic drive pumps. They have no big set of moving parts in them, and they're fairly cheap, right? A pump, King 6, you call it, is about $1,000 for a King 6, right? Which does 2,250 gallons an hour, I think. And I have one there running 4 years already, right? So it's a good pump to invest in for the small systems. The bigger systems, then you have the bigger pumps. They are a bit more costly, but once you have a big rack, you will need a larger pump, right? Pump size is determined from this one course here. We can't really go into all the details, but if the group decides that they want to go into building a small system, we can probably have another session on practical and building a small session. We could probably discuss with the persons in charge what will be the materials required and do a small practical session. We can come down at the county office and do a small practical and do a bit of a build and get your hands on it, rather than just listening to me talking here and you're not really seeing what I'm talking about,
Okay,
Right.
so Salim, what would be a minimum size group for you to have that session with?
Well, I would well, the COVID restrictions might be the only issue for me, but I'd say 20 persons, but then we might get in trouble for that. So I'm not sure what would be a safe number without getting in problems.
Well, let's go down to 10. So we will take people who are interested. You will text us after, and
Yeah,
we'll take in the sequence that people text.
right.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
thanks.
So we could probably do a small table system and and just reuse the same material and just dry fit it, take it apart, and then keep repeating that with the groups. Basically, so it might just be to purchase one set of material and just keep refitting it over and over without gluing it together, so that the groups will see it.
Okay, so what I would want to recommend is if you put a cost into that small
Yeah, I'll
size
have to,
system,
yeah, I'll do up a
then
list.
after they attend the practical, they may proceed to purchase
Mm-hmm.
units to start their practice at home.
Right. Okay, no problem.
Okay, good.
Right. So
Salim,
yes.
someone just asked if you can probably do a video showing how it's done, which could be shared as well if that's possible as an option.
I could try to do a video. I just have to get a proper I might use my phone and have somebody film it for me a bit, but I'll have to get the materials.
Well, I'll volunteer to do the video.
Okay.
Once we get the group of 10 and you get
Right.
the materials, I'll come
Okay,
up
right.
your way.
Right, and we can do the first session like that, and then you just yeah, well, that makes sense.
It would be nice if we could have done it for the Diwali holiday.
Oh, yeah.
We'll think about it and get back to you.
Okay, no problem. Right. Somebody's talking.
A mic might be open.
Oh, okay. Right. So we continue here on a bit on pumps on the head height. That's how high a pump could push the water. The rating on the pumps are gallons per hour. Right. These are things that you would have to see. I'll have to have a pump fair to look at it and see the ratings on these pumps based on the size of the tanks. So example, if you have a IBC tank, which is the white tank with the cage around it, that's 250 gallons. We try to have a pump which is double or even triple the volume of that, like a 1,000 gallon per hour or 1,200 gallon per hour pump, where it will be able to cycle the water 3 and 4 times within the hour through the plant system, right? The average flow rate on a rack, or on a one length of pipe 19 feet long is about 2 liters per minute passing through that pipe, right? And remember, on the NFT pipes and them, the pipes are gravity fed back to the tank, as the first photos would have shown, right? So don't worry too much about the pump size. When we get to the practical build, we will show the various pump sizes, right? Well, I have here, what pump size should I get? So they say the bigger the pump, the better. In this case, and about twice your requirement, because you can always reduce the water flow, right? What that means that if you oversize the pump a bit, you'd have extra flow of water back in the tank, which will help you with aeration. So it wouldn't be an issue if your pump is a bit bigger than what you actually require. Sometimes it's good to buy the bigger pumps. So in case you want to expand, you do have to buy another pump again. So you could just add another table rather than buy another pump, right? So we could look at doing something in that aspect where we have one IBC tank, and from that we can add on racks. I have someone, they would have used one IBC and 4 tables, right? One table is 19 feet long by 6 lengths of pipe. One table was doing 132 plants, so that's 132 times 4, all draining back into one IBC tank, right? The average in the upcoming notes, you will see the average gallons per, or liters per plant that we try to stick to, I try to stick to, is 2 liters per plant. So if I have 1,000 plants on my rack, I will try to have 2,000 liters of water in my reservoir. So it's 2 liters per plant average I try to go with, and that's the American standard from all the hydroponics books that I would have ran through. They practice and they preach going at 2 liters, even more than 2 liters if you could, but 2 liters is a good ratio per plant, right? Because remember, if you have a larger volume of water in your reservoir, it will take a longer time for the outside temperature to warm up that water. So it's better to have a larger reservoir than too small. I go by some persons and they have a 50-gallon drum and about 500 plants on that. And the plants wilting, the water hot, and they want to know why the system not doing well, because they're trying to do plenty plants on a small reservoir system, right? And once the barrel is out in the sun, the barrel getting hot, the water getting hot. So you basically feeding your plants warm water at the end of the day, right? So remember what we said about temperature, right? So we talk about reservoir volume, size in your water pump. So you've seen here on a 20-foot, the pipe doesn't come 20 feet anymore. They cut off a whole foot of the pipe and sell you it for the same price. That was 19 feet, right? So 19 feet, and we're looking at a rate of 1 to 2 liters per minute flowing through those pipes, right? Some persons cut their pipes in half and do shorter racks to fit the space. So you might have a full 20-foot span to use at home. So you might just purchase about 2 or 3 lengths and you cut them in half and you'll have 10 feet runs instead, right? The solution should be recycled every 2 hours, which means that it should be cycled through the system every 2 hours. Reservoirs will be, there are some photos here of different types of reservoirs: tanks, plastic tubs, barrels, concrete tanks, right? The bigger your plants grow, the more water they will need. So hence the reason why we try to have a big enough reservoir, because they will consume a lot more water as they get older. Because sometimes you see in your system you lose 20 gallons for the day, but it didn't leak out because the plants use it up, right? So you have to add back water every day. I add water every day back to my system as well, because I have you have some minor leaks, evaporation, and then the plants use, right? Small. So here I have some basic figures to work with. Large plants, they have you have here large plants here, 2.5 gallons, right? These are some of the larger volumes. Bigger plants that you would keep in there for a long time. Therefore, you need to have a larger reservoir for them. Reservoirs again. So this is some of the problems that you would encounter if your reservoir is not big enough. And in Trinidad, we have a lot of this happening, right? Nutrient fluctuations, big pH swings, and oxygen depletion, right? If you do have a proper size reservoir. I found from my experience with farmers that the guys with the concrete tanks do a lot better, and the small concrete tanks do well. It just costs more to set up, because then you have to pay a mason and some guys to dig out a hole in the ground and cast a proper watertight tank. The problem with the concrete tanks is a permanent fixture. You can't just pick it up and move it like a plastic tank. That's the only thing. Temperature control, well, we had mentioned that earlier on, how important it is to have a proper temperature of 25 to 28 degrees Celsius, and that is the ideal temperature for the pH, for the nutrient solution, right? If you don't have if your temperature is too high, you will have wilting, dropping of flowers, the lettuce starts to bolt. So if you find your lettuce plants growing up like a Christmas tree, check your water temperature. It's probably too high, right? And also low dissolved oxygen, so lack of oxygen. And how we get oxygen into the water? Anyone? how will we get oxygen into the water for the plant to use it? Via air stones. Right, air stone from the air pumps on them, right? So again, that's another cost to consider, the air stones. And if you don't have proper oxygen, you have root rot problems, which is the root turns black. You have pathogens that will multiply fast in the system as well. Right?
Question, anybody else know what is an air stone? Fran, how about you, or Ava, or Ingrid? Anybody? All right, Antonio, you want to tell them what is an air stone? Okay,
There's a
Angela,
stone
answer.
used in the fish tanks.
Yeah.
It's the aerated stone.
Yeah, it is.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's the exact thing that we use, except we use a 2-inch size air stone or 4-inch as the case may be. The ones for the aquarium might be like a 1-inch size and smaller, but the ones for the hydroponics is the same type of air stone, except it's just larger because the air pumps might be a bit larger, right? So how to control temperature? Well, they make mention here of insulating your tanks, having the in-ground tanks, concrete tanks, use of shade cloth over your system, right? Just to help with temperature, use of a water chiller as well. Right, we have here dissolved oxygen, another important parameter that must be considered, right? Why is essential? It aids in faster growth rate, healthier crops, and bigger yields. If you have ample source of oxygen, the plant will be able to metabolize faster and pull in the nutrients through the leaves faster and give you better growth. So you can never have too much oxygen, right? That's the reason why we have air stones in our system and heavy, vigorous agitation of the water. Right, here we have just some notes here for you. A 25-gallon tote, 150 gallons per hour is the oxygen requirement. This requirement is based on calculations based on water volume and the amount of air is required. So if you have a reservoir tank, 400 gallons, you need to have a air pump that gives off 2,400 gallons per hour. Now on the air pumps, they are rated per hour, gallons per hour or liters per hour on these air pumps. So you can do once you have the air pump in front of you and you have your table here, you can calculate what size of air pump to purchase to suit the size of the reservoir that you may have. A quick look into diseases now. In hydroponics, we get a lot of diseases. One of the main problems with diseases is that if we choose to neglect cleaning our pipes and your tables and your surfaces, you end up in problems with disease. Disease tends to linger around on the surface of the pipes and within and on the exterior of the pipes, right? And then the plants also picks up diseases, let's say from the nursery stage. Right? So some of the common diseases mentioned here are Pythium, Phytophthora, Fusarium. We get all of this in hydroponics damping off in our seedlings, right? Wilts. We get Cercospora as well. Bacterial spots in lettuce, very bad. I had to shut down my system for 3 months due to bacterial spots, right? And had to sanitize the entire area and wash out everything with Clorox and wait about 3 months before I could start back. So those are some of the things that you have to consider when you're in this type of growing system. That the good thing is that I was able to sanitize and start over and continue production. But if you're in the soil and you have that problem, then you can't dig out all the soil and throw it away. You have to sanitize. You just have to move to another location and wait for that soil to come back up standard. Management practices to reduce the risk of diseases. So as I said, you must have a set management practice. I can only speak for what I do. We try to have a system running here in terms of Monday to Sunday, our work week. From Wednesday, well, today is Thursday, we start cutting lettuce today. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we cut lettuce and kale and bundle to sell to the market. As fast as we cut, we start washing back our cups and soaking them in Clorox. So you have different sinks for different things, right? My place is set up in that way where I can soak my cups, wash out the pipes on the rack on a Sunday. So everything is set up for the week where certain days have certain activities have to take place. If you miss those days, then you have a pile up the following week, right? So it's a bit of organizing your work week and balancing your job and your farming system, but is what we choose to it's how you choose to manage it, you know. But if you do it full time, it will be easier for you if you run it in that manner. On Wednesday we set seedlings, you know, so everything has a specific day to do a certain task, so it wouldn't pile up, right? So you will have to formulate your little management strategy for your system when it becomes a certain size. I have a 12 rack system, and which is a lot of, to me is a good size. I would like to reach up to 20 racks, but for now we stick it with 12 racks, right? So good maintenance is important. Hygiene on the farm is important. You must have your different sinks. One side your chemicals, one side from your washing area, stuff like that. Your disinfectant solutions. Well, humidity control, that will be something that will be hard to control if you're outdoors. If you're indoors, well, then you can control that. Drainage wouldn't really be a problem because we grow in pipes and in racks, and everything is piped in PVC back to the tanks. So drainage wouldn't be really an issue here for us. It's just sanitation and sanitizing the pipes on a regular basis. And monitoring your nutrient concentrations and your pH, right? So here we go into some formulas, right? So you all will get these formulas, so you can use these same formulas for your systems. Is similar to what I use, right? You have complete formulas here, how to fill the a little run through on how to fill the reservoir and mix your fertilizers here, right? This one is a lattice formula for using 7-11-27, and it's showing you there what the pH should be and the ppm should be, right? The amount of 7-11 to use, the amount of magnesium to use, the amount of calcium. You'll understand the measurements there. 50 grams per 100 liters. That's 50 grams of what? The fertilizer to 100 liters of water, right? So how am I going to measure 50 grams? With a spoon? Anybody? How are we going to measure 50 grams?
With a scale.
Very good. Yeah, but what kind of scale? Because you can't go by a market scale, right?
A gram scale.
You have to, you're right. Ideally, if you could get your hands on a digital gram scale, that will be nice. But believe you me when I tell you, well, I'll tell you from my experience, I bought scales and scales and more scales. They spoil too quick. These fellows charge us $280 for a scale. It lasts 2 months. I go on by Plant Doctors and buy a scale. I went online and I buy a scale, 50 US, 60 US for a scale. This is stainless steel scale, nice to use, whatever. 2 months, 3 months, scale spoiled. The best scale so far, I'm not on wood, the best scale so far I got was in Princestown by the, what do you call it? Sorry, not Princestown. The agro shop in Penal was selling a gram scale with a manual kitchen gram scale, what you weigh flour in, for $40. And I have that 1 year now. No battery, manual gram scale, and works well. So if you shop around, you could save some money. Everybody say buy a nice digital scale. Yes, in the beginning I'm buying a nice, expensive looking things. The table look nice, but they do last, right? So the idea in the back of your mind, you have to keep cost of production. Cost of production. There are cheaper things out there that works just as well as the expensive items. You just have to go and look for them. You look for deals in fertilizers, deals in chemicals, deals in seedlings. When you have to buy, well, right now the PVC pipe that I'm using, the 2x4 pipe that you'll see in a while, the price went up. $200 for a length of pipe. When I bought them, it was $140 a length, $135. Now it's $200 a length. And they say by January next year, the price will go over $200 a length of pipe, right? So We have to bear that in mind. So we just have some formulas here, the various crops, right? It's all noted on liters and gallons, how much grams in a teaspoon, right? How much water should flow through the NFT system, right? Some things to remember, right? Be observant, sanitize on a regular basis, set a proper sanitation schedule. So you know that you will let's say if you know you're working Monday to Friday, you design a system where you could shut down on Saturday after your harvest and sanitize. Sunday, you probably set your seedlings and you work Monday to Friday. So you can free up your week. But then if you have customers to deliver to during the week, and on the afternoons, well, then you adjust yourself. But you have to design your system around your work schedule, right? So you could do this and have a job at the same time and supplement your income. But it all depends on your design and how much time you want to spend when you come home from work in your system. Because as I wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, I go out in the back, check my system, get ready for work, come back in the afternoon, go back in the back again, and then come back inside, probably just dark. And my whole family, we take turns in it, right? So it's a nice family-run business. My children, they help me in it, and now eventually they will take over, and I will allow them to just manage it for themselves, and they could use that as their own little income until they have something better to do in the meantime while they do their schoolwork still. So even school children could get involved, right? Once they could understand how to measure and weigh, you have no problems. They could start as early as 6 years, 7 years. My last daughter is 8, and she helps us in it. So you can get your whole family involved, and it's a nice opportunity to be together and work as a family, right? Because children getting bored home in COVID, just staying on your screen all the time and not going to school, so you have something else to do, right? The use of, so back to the point, the use of clean water in your NFT system is important. Wassa water comes very dirty on a Sunday in Princeton in my area. So we don't use water from the system, from the tanks on a Sunday, right? You have to be aware of your water quality, right? You check your pH regular. You ensure your pH and your ppm meters are calibrated. So I try to get my meters checked and calibrated every 2 months to make sure that I'm not off, because I would have visited some farmers in the past and they would have had some issues growing, and the only issue they had was that their meters was off, because one guy was checking his pH and the pH was always saying 4.2, right? But when I took my meter across to him and I tested, it was actually 7 and above. So the water was alkali, but the meter was reading acidic. So he had a defective meter, right? He was doing everything correct, but the meter was defective. So you have to pay. So it's always good to recalibrate your meters on every 2 months, every month and a half. Yeah, and it's just some solution to purchase. Dip them in it and turn the screw in the back of it, and that's it, right? Some more points to remember here: wash your meters, store them properly. At the start of a new crop, check your pH and your ppm daily. Follow the formulas, and spray your crops and stuff on time. Ensure the temperatures are adequate for the plant growth. Right, some more points to remember here. Again, we're going down. We're almost finished here. We're coming to the end, right? Ensure you have good plants. Your plants get 6 hours of sunlight. You look out for signs of pest and disease, so you have to be observant. You practice proper field sanitation, where you discard off all your root mass material, all your old leaves and stuff like that. You apply your foliar fertilizers and light sprays to enhance the performance of your crop. Now, even though we are supplying all the nutrients to the root of the plant, we still try to spray on the surface some organic stuff. Example like some castanic, some Bio 20, some cytokine and green stem, stuff like that, because of calcium when the plants are small. And we also have to have a calendar at our disposal in our fertilizer area to know when we spray. And we take off the days that we spray, so we know that if we spray now, we can't harvest anything for the next 7 days, right? So you have to know that the chemical that you use in the post-harvest interval is observed, right? Because there are some chemicals out there, the post-harvest interval, which means the time from which you spray to the time which is safe to consume is 14 days. So you're trying not to use those types of chemicals, right? You stick to the chemicals where they are 1 day post-harvest interval. Somebody saying something? Oh, that's just my voice echoing on somebody's mic.
Hi, Sharon, could you mute yourself, please?
Right? Ensure adequate air is dissolved into the system. Right? Well, this was some points for officers to remember, because I would have done this for some officers as well. Observe the crop being planted and the spacing used, right? Which means that every crop will have a particular type of spacing, right? Lettuce has a different spacing from pak choy, from celery, from kale, right? Every crop has a specific type of spacing to work with, right? Start overall checks of the hydroponic system from the pump area up to the NFT line. So this was just some notes to officers like myself who was going out there to look at hydroponic systems and didn't know about them, what to look for. They check for the pumps and follow the plumbing to make sure it was done properly, right? You look at reservoir volumes and observe the total number of NFT grow beds being planted, right? Just some more points here for officers to remember. This was which I would have done for the ministry personnel, right? Right, so just some more points there. This one really pertain to you much, but you can still have a read of it and what it pertains to when we visit farmers, what we check for. Right, there's just some photos here of what a healthy root mass supposed to look like from a young plant. This plant what I have here is about 2 weeks old, out of my system. So you will see the root mass there sticking out from the net cup. You're seeing what the net cup is, the black cup that I'm holding there. Right, and this is a Eden lettuce. This is the root mass here. This net cup is probably about 2 years old. So it's just a one-time buy of the net cups, and you use them over and over. Right, you sanitize them and you use them back. Right, this was a lettuce which I harvested from my system. It was about 18 inches across, but this doesn't always happen. This was just a mutation of a lettuce which I got from a seedling supplier, and one lettuce made this size. So sometimes you see people post they get 18-inch lettuce. It's not always true. It's just one lettuce did that in the whole rack. Not all did that. Right? I had the bronze lettuce you've seen here, bronze growing here, and then I had bandania growing in another system. So you can see the length of the bandania. This my hand here is about 10 inches, 12 inches average. Right? Shadow Benny growing in hydroponics as well.
I always had a curiosity about the Chado Benny, Salim.
Yeah.
Does growing it hydroponically decrease or increase the
Potency.
the essential oils in it?
I didn't have a drop, but I can't say for the oils, but in terms of the potency, to me it remained the same. It smelled the same. Once you snap those leaves, you get that fresh Shadow Benny smell. So the fear was it might have been diluted to some extent, but I would have grown it for about a year and didn't have any problems in terms of having it sold or using it, and people complained about, hey, this thing not strong enough, it had the same smell. Right, and this is a photo here of the Shadow Benny system here. Yes, I just had 2 racks, 250 plants on a rack, and I would have converted this over time. This year's some pak choy I had as well. So I did a number of crops when I started. I did Shadow Benny, pak choy, and lettuce. Now it's only lettuce until we expand again to do the pak choy. Pak choy is a lot of work for the same price as lettuce. But what's the difference with pak choy and lettuce? Anybody could tell me? What's the difference between pak choy and lettuce in terms of its use? Anybody?
Well, pak choy is basically food.
Nice.
Lettuce is more luxury.
That is it. That is it. Pak choy is a food. You can make a meal from pak choy. Lettuce is a garnish. You do have to garnish. You do have to eat a lettuce, but you could eat. But you could buy a pak choy and combine it with a little saltfish and tomato and a little fryer pan. That good, right?
And so all Chinese restaurants need pak choy. They use it all the time. So there's
Right.
a high.
Right. So if we're doing a pak choy system, we need to target a customer that will buy pak choy by the pound from us. If we targeting market vendors, they want you to bundle it 2 or 3 pak choy to make a bundle. Now a little thing about marketing quickly here, right? From my experience in the marketing part of it, Trinis love to see more for their money. Growers want to grow a jumbo size pak choy, 18 inches long by 8 or 9 inches fat, right? When a man go on the market stall and you see one jumbo size pak choy, no rubber band, just one big pak choy, and they tell you $7 for that. You'll pass that straight, but you'll go by the man that have 3 pak choy together with more green and about, let's say 50% or even 40% white, but more 60% green. You would use that to cook and make your meal, because some people don't like white. I don't like plenty white in pak choy, but I mean, some people don't like too much of white. They like a bit of both, right? So it's good to know what your customer wants. People like to see 3 pak choy, make a bundle, which means when you design your system, you space your rack where you could plant probably more pak choy on the rack and harvest them earlier. So let's say in 3 weeks we harvest and 3 make a bundle. So we get 100 bundles from a rack rather than 70 bundles. So we increase our output from that rack based on the marketing information that we would have collected from our area or from your supplier. Now, if you're doing bulk pak choy where you're selling by weight, well then you want to grow all those jumbo size ones. They would be heavier. But if you're doing sales to customers via wholesale or retail, they'll want to see 3. Even when you go to buy tomatoes, or even when people want to grow tomatoes, everybody want to grow beefsteak tomato, the big slicers. They want to see a massive tomato, big so. But when a client have to pay $15 a pound for tomato and they only get 1 tomato, they don't want that. They want to get 6 smaller tomatoes or 10 smaller tomatoes for the same $15. So again, is marketing and customer preference will also affect your system design. So when you design a system, you design to suit your clientele. So certain persons prefer certain things. In Princeton, they prefer something different to San Fernando, to Up Mokoya, right? So you have to have that in the back of your mind. So when I did my system, we redid the system and we are growing lettuce only at the moment, but we're doing 3 different types of lettuce. I import my own seeds, so I'm no longer doing Eden. I do mule lettuce, green oak leaf, and red oak leaf. So there's a different lettuce altogether, and I target certain people in the area, vendors, and they purchase that from me. So I always have lettuce for them, and they want that from me, right? And they will buy the Eden or whatever from other person. But when the customers come to buy from them, they always ask for my lettuce, my different type of lettuce is more full, is a more full head lettuce, plenty more leaves for the $5 that they're paying for it. Versus the Eden, which is a big lettuce but stringy, less leaves, right? So I'll give you a quick peep on my system in a while, and you'll see what I have. So that's the end of that part of it. I just have let me see how to get to the videos I have here. So I'll have to press back screen sharing again and then press the videos or screen share first the video here with sound share. You all seen this?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, so I'm gonna take off the I don't want any sound with this. No sound. Right, so this is just a little 10 seconds here of my seedlings, right? So I do seedlings for myself. I would have imported my own seeds. So these are my 3 varieties of lettuce you're seeing here. These are my oak leaf, my red lettuce, and then I have the mule lettuce in the back here. It's just a 10 seconds video of that, of what it is. Right, so you have the different types of lettuce right here, 3 different varieties right here. Right, so I do my own seedlings as well. The reason for that, you tend to get better quality seedlings once you know how to do it well, and it costs you cheaper to do your own seedlings, right? When you purchase from the seedling companies and them, sometimes you bring in disease, and that was one of the issues I had. I ended up bringing in disease into my premises and had to pay the price for that. So I did my own, so that led me to do my own nurseries, right? So every week we have to set 3 crates of this every week. If we miss a week, then we miss a harvest. So everything would be done on a time. So everything is timing, right? So this is just the lettuce part of it. Close this here. So here we have these are my my tanks in the ground, right? So I have two black tanks. It's 800 gallons and this one is 600 gallons, right? I have an air pump feeding both tanks. My tank is down in the ground, right?
You need to
And
show us the tank, Salim.
yeah, I'll go back to it. All right, there's my little chemical corner, my sink, my pump, well, other pumps, spray cans. We're going back to the tanks here. Yeah.
It's not coming up on the screen.
We still seeing the lettuce.
Okay, all right, that's no. Let me see.
Yeah, take off the lettuce video first and
okay,
bring on the other stuff.
Stop this here. Go back here.
While he's finding the video, just think about what we were mulling over a while ago in terms of when we're going to meet to see a system being put together practically. So you get a hands-on feel for it and then go home and do yours. And I like to take advantage of down times. And I'm so happy that Salim is volunteering his time, although it's overtime. Back to you, Salim.
Right. So you're seeing the slide there now?
Yes, the tanks.
Yes, it's there.
Yes.
Right. So you're seeing 2 tanks there, right? So I just take out the sound off of it. So I have two tanks here. This is a 800 and there's a 600 in the corner here, right? We have 2 pumps in there and we have a air pump here, right? So these 2 tanks are feeding my system. I broke it into two parts. So we have 2 separate sections where we grow the lettuce, right? This little chemical corner here where you're seeing all the chemicals I use in the corner there, mostly green label ones. A little table, a little whiteboard here where I wrote down my formula, right? So in case I'm not home, I could just call home and just tell my daughter or my son, hey, check the tank. If the water low, just mix up some fertilizer there so they can see the formula there, right? And well, your washing sink here, right? So just a simple layout of what I have there. Right. So the tank is in the ground. Right. So let me stop this one and go back here and show you all this one. This one here. You all seen this one?
Yes.
Right. So this is just a couple of seconds here of my racks. You can see the type of pipes I would have used. I have 12 racks here in this area here. Right, so you see there's a 2x4 rectangular pipe. Everything here I would have built for myself. Metal frames, did the welding myself, everything. Learned to weld doing this, actually. Did all the plumbing myself. Everything here you see was built by myself and my family here. And we live on a sloping piece of land here. And we would have benched the hill to accommodate this system, right? So each rack here is 132 plants here, and these are different stages of growth. You see, you've seen some red lettuce in between, the green ones, another variety here, right? So it's different types of lettuce at different stages of growth, because every week we try to have at least 400 heads every week to 450 a week to put out for sale, right? So this is just one part of it. We have another small video here. This one. You've seen this one here, right?
Yes.
Right. So this is the same system, just from a different angle, right? So you could just see the type of pipe here. This elbow alone here is $20 now for one elbow. These are elbows here, right? This is the 2x4 pipe I told you about here, which is 200 for length now for this 2x4, right? And
So
I would have.
Salim, you could either make it yourself or buy it prefabricated.
If you're buying, there are some vendors selling the pipes pre-drilled, but I don't know the price. But I would have drilled these pipes myself. You buy them whole lengths and then you drill them yourself, right? I would have used round pipe in the past, but I didn't have good results with the circular pipes. These 2x4s are a bit better. You have a lot more root room, and they're easier to clean and work with, and then they sit better on the racks.
Have you seen the system provided by Prova?
Prova, yeah, Prova has a shorter pipe. I think a 14-feet pipe. Same 2x4, but with a lid, with the holes already drilled. I think it's 185 for length of those, but they're shorter. They are 14 feet.
Yeah. Is there any savings there, or?
Well, with the 14 feet is less plants. These are 22 plants on a pipe. 22 plants on one of these pipes. On the 14 feet, you won't get 22. You might get about 12 or 14 exact. It all depends on what spacing they're giving you. Right. So for ease of operation, we could probably start off with the Prova pipes and do a demo with that, and then versus doing the manual drilling, because it's plenty drilling and cutting and modifications for the non-drilled and non-prepared pipes. Yeah, so we could consider that as an option. So basically, that is it there for my.
Is that
Yeah.
PVC?
Yes,
Pipe?
yes, PVC. Yeah. When you go to the hardware, you're asking for 2x4 guttering down pipe.
Okay.
Because there's a 3x3 guttering down pipe that we used to use in the past.
Okay.
Right? But the hardware now is 2x4
Guttering. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Down pipe, and it is supplied at all the most hardwares, or they have to order it. But Amanco or Shazam Enterprise is the agents for it. They have two companies, Amanco and Shazam Enterprise. Well, in Princestown, by Devon and Hardware has it. By Plant Doctors has it as well, and those big hardwares in Hoover, I saw they advertise as well.
Salim,
yeah.
Somebody asked, where is Plant Doctors located in Princestown?
Matilda, just as you pass the Matilda, junction going down the hill, before the senior sec entrance on the left hand side is a big sign there. And you could check his Facebook page as well. He has a lot of stuff. The price a bit, but it's good quality stuff he has.
And if I remember, isn't he a retired agent?
Yeah,
Is it same, right? So he worked at the ministry before, folks. So he has experience.
Very, very knowledgeable. You can learn a lot from Slim. Yeah.
We call him Slim.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if the pipes are locally, if it's from the PVC.
If it's what?
If it's manufactured here, like Tricon and Century Effluent and Tricon.
I don't know.
Do you know?
I think Shazam Enterprise manufactures them here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think Shazam Enterprises has its own PVC plant here. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions pertaining to the hydroponics? No. Don't just take what I say for granted. You have to go on YouTube. You have to do some reading on your own as well on the hydroponics NFT systems versus drip-to-waste systems, and see which system is applicable to your location. Not everybody will be able to manage an NFT. If you want to look into drip-to-waste first, if you want to just go into buying a couple pots and mixing some cocoa peat and manually watering them for a period of time and just grow out something in some pots first, and then you start to automate that little system, and then you graduate to the higher type systems and the more intensive management systems, because sometimes people may want to just jump into NFT and get a massive headache and realize, hey, this is too much of a baby and I can't be with this thing so much, you know. So you have to be aware that that is a lot more management than what you would expect with the other type systems. But personally, I like it, and I want to be doing that fine tuning and fixing those plants. I like to do that. I prefer that versus fighting up in the ground.
We have someone who have their hand raised. May you could unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, me, Alfred.
Yeah. Yes. Good evening. I would like to find. I was thinking about doing a small Kratky thing just for watercress, to do some watercress, more for personal use,
right,
rather than for commercial use.
Right. So I would recommend that if you're doing a Kratky, to still you could do the same 4x4 layup, or you could use you have access to any type of tote or tub that you can mix and put the water in, and then put the styrofoam board on top of it.
Well, I suppose I'll have to get. I was thinking of cutting a barrel half lengthways.
Right. Right. So what you could probably do is, right, so you could cut the barrel lengthways, make sure it's level, proper, not twisted or anything, and you could probably lay your Styrotex in there. But if you buy one of those aquarium pumps, this small little air pump, just because watercress, from what I would have grown watercress in aquaponics systems, and it did very well, right? But the watercress love that running water through the root system. So I don't know if it will do well in the Kratky, but just to ensure that it does do well, just a bit of aeration, and you will see some nice results.
Using the aquarium pump.
Yeah, it's about $90 for a small air pump and an air stone. But that's the small one outlet pump for like that barrel. But if you want to buy the double valve, the double output pumps, and put one air stone in either half a barrel, so you have two outlets on two half a barrels, you try to almost guarantee some thing. Kavir, I see you raise your hand there.
Yeah, so I have a little fear with NFTs. I wanted to know how you deal with it. How do you deal with power outages?
Right, so I have a 6,000 watt generator, and I back power my 220 outlet sub panel home and power the entire house and the NFT with it. So
nice.
Yeah, so I have that in place. Yeah.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah. Angela has her hand up still.
Angela, you can unmute.
Yes, I tried using a pigtail bucket, using the cover of the pigtail bucket, but I drilled some holes and used the little cups, but everything came to naught.
Right.
It's now I'm understanding that using the right fertilizer in the water, the temperature of the water, the changing of the water, correct monitoring and all that. You know,
Nice.
so I appreciate this presentation. Thank you
Well,
very much.
Well, right. So you see what you just said there? It basically made my whole afternoon, because I realized that you would have absorbed something, most of what I would have said, and nobody fall asleep. So that's good. I feel good to know that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks again.
You're welcome. Yeah, anybody else?
We'll take one more question. It's now after 8. If there are no more questions, I think that was such a fantastic session we just went through there. And none of us went into dreamland, but we are dreaming of having our own system, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to invite Leanne Andrews at this time, who will move a vote of thanks, and then we'll ask Pastor Joshua to close us with a prayer.
Good evening, all. So I'd like to say a heartfelt thank you to Mr. Shah for your time and the wealth of information that you shared. I look forward to the day when my garden can look like just one length of your pipe.
Yeah.
You know, and some of the things that you shared, I'm seeing where, you know, I would have fallen short. I think particularly with regards to the pH, etc.
Yeah.
So I think I have a bit of persuading my husband to do, in terms of, you know, it's not just me having a wrong thumb, but, you know, things beyond my control that I didn't know of, that now I'm more informed, so I can, you know, I can apply it to my plants and hopefully get the results like yours. I know not to that great extent, but in some measure. So thank you so much once again for the wealth of information. It was very informative. I think having seen to the practical application, you know, your experience in that regard, it added so much more to the presentation as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pastor Joshua,
just before Pastor Joshua, Brother Granger, I just want to thank the members of the ministry who are here. And someone asked about experts in the Rio Claro area. So Ms. Mitchell, who's on the A3 for County Nova Miaro, said that there's an A1 at the Rio Claro demonstration station, Mr. Jeremy Ramdas, who persons in this area can contact for information as well. So we have Jeremy. If you live in the Princeton area, you're lucky. Mr. Shah is at County Victoria, so you can visit him there on a Wednesday. And Mr. Diet, we have some folks in your area. Do you have an expert at County St. Andrews and David as well? You have an officer who does hydroponics?
Yes, the officer that does hydroponics at County St. Andrews and David is Mr. Bridges Ram. He used to be in
yes,
Rio Claro.
we know Bridges, yes. And his sister's actually on the call as well. And his aunt.
Okay.
So,
right,
so if you're in Santa Grande area, you can go to Aeroponics. If you're in Rio Claro area, you can come to Rio Claro demonstration station. If you're in the Princeton area, you can go to the Kratky demonstration station, Ministry of Agriculture, on any Wednesday, especially, which is our office day, and you can get information from our officers there.
I want to take up Salim on his offer to do a practical. And I don't know if you all have been thinking about doing it as early as possible. And I didn't consult with Salim, but when is your first available day, Salim?
Well, this week is booked out. It will be after Diwali, because next week is I have a few things to do next week. a few programs to run as well, and I have some programs to close. So it will be the following week, but from then till now, we'll have to discuss the materials and sourcing them and having it ready. And then when you can come in first, for me and you to do the video with the group. So
Give me an idea. You could text me the
I'll
list
text you.
of materials and the cost.
Yeah.
And if it is within a range that we could manage,
Yeah.
we will consider how we will finance it, Sister Gabrielle.
Yes.
If each individual will put up a certain amount, so at least we have one system that could be put in place. We'll decide on some kind of agreement as to where that system will be held for people to come and see at any one time. I want to consider having it hosted by Pastor Joshua at one of the churches, maybe Princess Town Church.
So we could probably build there.
Yeah, so we could get people seeing it and participating and managing it, and then ordering their own system. So those things we'll discuss as we go forward, and we'll get back to Celine. Thank you very much, Celine. And to the rest
one
of
comment, Mr. James Williams' hand is up, and I don't want to miss him, and one of our retired A3 Extension Officer, James.
James.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
The lady who moved the voter tans did an excellent job, but I really could not leave this meeting without saying a personal thank you to Salim. Salim, you did a wonderful job.
Thanks, James.
You are flying the flag of the ministry high. And this doesn't come from only a professional doing it for the job's sake. This comes, you sense the love in what you do. One of the things I found really good about this presentation is that you gave full disclosure. A lot of time people do presentations and they hide the little secrets and the whatnot because they think so selfishly. And you did a masterful job. Continue doing that. You could only move from strength to strength because you gave it your whole heart.
Thank
you.
I think that deserves a round of applause, virtual or otherwise. Let's do that, please. For Salim and the rest of the...
Thank you very much.
Someone is asking if you would do site visits, if they set up their system, if you would do site visits. I gave your number in the chat. I gave your number in the chat here, and I also gave it in the group chat that we have because you said you're willing to give advice, so they can call you for advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Well, Granger, I think that's it there. Last comment.
So we have one hand up. We'll take this last hand. Sister Morris, Zipporah Morris, your hand was up. Is it still up or you've called it a night? She probably didn't hear me, but her hand was up a few seconds ago. Yes, that will be it. Let's close off the night. Thanks to everyone for coming out and making this such a vibrant session. I can see hydroponic units going up all over Southwest Trinidad. That will be a dream come true. And I can see you giving some extra produce to people in your neighborhood and even exchanging. If I did kale and you did watercress, we could exchange. So we don't have to do it on a commercial level. We could do it on a household level. Yes,
Mr.
Gabriel?
Granger, actually, I know we want to end, right? But Kavir Ramuta is one of the young persons I invited to come tonight. And Kavir is the one who is doing aquaponics. I posted some pictures in the group for you all last week. He's here. If we just give him a minute to say something about what he's doing as a young person. So I'm really proud of what he's doing here in Navan.
Certainly.
No problem. Well, so in my backyard, I decided to try a thing with cascadoo, right? I think a lot of people like cascadoo. But you don't really hear much about cascadoo farming in Trinidad. So I decided to look into that a bit, and now I am producing cascadoo fingerlings, which I sell to other farmers and people that want to get into aquaculture and aquaponics. So just growing plants and fish together. So yeah, that's pretty much all I'm doing right now. My system is an aquaponic system. So I grow fish and plants together. The reason I use the plants is because I find there's a lot less maintenance for the system. So the plants would always keep the water clean for the fish, whereas normally someone would have to change the water on a weekly basis. My system just recirculates the water and keeps the fish healthy. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
Kavir, is there a particular reason why you chose Cascadura? And how does that relate to the cleansing of the water? Let's suppose it was a different fish. How would it have affected the cleansing of the water?
Right. So with any fish, you could use any fish in aquaponics. Once the fish produce waste, or once you're using fish food in the system, the bacteria in the system in something called a biofilter, or in the grow bed also, once there's a space for bacteria to grow, it would convert the fish waste or uneaten fish food from ammonia, which is toxic to fish, into nitrates, which is less toxic, although still toxic to fish, but the plants use up that nitrates, making the water safe for the fish. The reason I choose Cascadoo over tilapia, it have kind of two reasons. One is I have a concern for the ecology behind the tilapia. If you rear tilapia and it just happens to get out into our natural environment, it is an invasive species and it could do a lot of damage. My next reason for doing Cascadoo is because of its rapid decline. You don't really hear much about nearly all of the Cascadoo you find in a supermarket in Trinidad is imported. So to me, there's a reason of concern because like the natural stock of Cascadoo right now is just declining due to like deforestation or urbanization and so on. I don't really hear much about people trying to prevent that. So that's my take on it, on trying to at least help out the Cascadoo in Trinidad. Probably just bring it back somehow. The more Cascadoo I could produce,
Better.
the less that you could take from the wild.
Okay, thank you, Kavir. Some of us may not eat Cascadoo, but it said that what if you eat Cascadoo, what you must come back to Trinidad or something. So is that the statement?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
that are different.
Have a little folklore behind it also.
Yes, yes, yes. Thanks again, everybody. And Pastor Joshua, can you close us at this time, please? So,
pleasant night, everyone. Let's bow our heads as we pray. Heavenly Father and God, we are thankful for all the information we received tonight. Each week, dear Father, as we go forward, we receive more and more information to help us to be able to produce food for ourselves, and even to produce it on a scale where we can help the supply in our communities and on our neighbors. Mighty God, we ask that you continue to bless these presenters, continue to bless their crops as they grow them, continue to protect them, their Father. We ask, dear God, that you continue to ensure that as they share the information, that the information will be well received and persons will put that information to use and be able to produce food for themselves. Mighty God, we ask that you take care of each person here, bless their families, continue to keep them, continue saving them, their Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen.
Good night, everyone.
Amen. Before we go, just a little announcement, and maybe Celine might be able to help me here along with Gabrielle. There is a certificate that is going to be produced for all of you who complete this exercise that we're doing for you all of home gardening. However, this for the first time we've introduced the element of the hydroponics. And since we want to take it to its final conclusion, by having the practical bit and maybe having you build a system, I want to put Salim on the spot as well as Gabrielle and our fellow officers. Would there be a separate certificate for those who complete the hydroponics program from the ministry? Could that be arranged?
Salim,
A
your
certificate?
mic muted.
My mic is not muted.
No,
Okay.
Salim, I was talking to
Okay.
Salim.
Okay. What I'll do, I'll probably talk to my A3 and the AO and see if we
Yeah.
what we could do on that aspect in terms of producing a certificate
Yeah.
from County Victoria, right? But once the participants cover the practical, then they would get that certificate, right?
Yeah, I wanted to give the ministry first preference to do that. If the ministry declines, we would continue this with the practical. I will also invite another supplier who wants to do a hydroponics program with us. We will lengthen the course by an additional day. And for that, we will provide you a separate hydroponics certificate. It is the wishes of the director of Adventist Welfare Services Division, Pastor Walcott, that we conduct this hydroponics course. So it's a slightly different twist to what we were doing in terms of the home gardening. So a second certificate is in the making if we take this to its logical conclusion. Thanks again, Salim, for offering, and thanks everybody. You now have something extra to aim for.
Okay, no problem.
Yep. Okay.
All
You
right.
could open your mics and greet everyone on the session, or feel free to run off to your dinners.